Logion 1, Gospel of Thomas. These are the secret words which the living Jesus spoke, and which Didymus Judas Thomas wrote down. And he said, "Whoever finds the interpretation of these words will not taste death." The first verse of the Gospel of Thomas is the key to all that follows. It is not a simple introduction, but an initiation. Each word is a symbol that opens a door into higher consciousness. The text declares that what follows are secret words, not because they are forbidden, but because they can only be truly understood through inner experience. The secret words are the mysteries of the soul, truths that cannot be taught externally, but must be awakened within. They speak of direct knowledge, gnosis, of the divine reality that dwells within every human being. The living Jesus represents the eternal Christ, the divine principle of consciousness that transcends history. Living means present, active, immediate. It is the inner fire of the Spirit that still speaks today to the heart that listens in silence. This gospel, therefore, is not about a figure of the past, but about a living presence that exists in the depths of one's own being. Didymus Judas Thomas means Thomas the twin. This name is symbolic. Thomas is the mirror of the divine, the human self reflecting its higher counterpart. The twin represents the essential duality of the soul, the human and the divine, the visible and the invisible, matter and spirit. Thomas is the seeker who discovers that the image of God he sought outside has always been within. In the hermetic and alchemical sense, this verse describes the beginning of the great work, the inner process of transformation. The secret words are the prima materia, the raw substance of the soul that must be purified and transmuted. The living Jesus is the sacred fire, the hidden energy that performs this purification. Thomas is the alchemist within, the conscious operator of this process, the one who undergoes the death and rebirth of the Spirit. To find the interpretation means to transmute the literal into the symbolic, the external into the internal, to dissolve the letter and liberate the spirit. This is the inner solve and coagula, dissolving the ordinary mind and reassembling it in awakened consciousness. From a Jungian perspective, this logion depicts the relationship between the ego and the self. The living Jesus symbolizes the self, the luminous center of the psyche, the image of the divine within. Thomas represents the ego, the conscious personality seeking reunion with this deeper totality. The secret words are the symbols that emerge from the unconscious, dreams, visions, intuitions, that carry messages from the self. To find the interpretation means to integrate these symbols consciously, allowing them to transform perception and being itself. When the ego understands and yields to the self, the process of individuation occurs, the birth of the true human reconciled with the divine source. To not taste death is the symbol of this integration. Death here is not physical, but the state of separation from the divine center. Whoever discovers and lives the hidden meaning of the words awakens to a consciousness where death loses its power, for they have recognized within themselves something that is eternal. Thus, Logion 1 describes the very structure of enlightenment. The divine speaks, the human listens, meaning is revealed, and the soul, made whole, transcends death. The one who finds the true interpretation no longer merely believes in God, they become aware of God within themselves.
Logion 2 from the Gospel of Thomas. Jesus said, "Let the one who seeks not cease from seeking until he finds. When he finds, he will be disturbed, and when he is disturbed, he will marvel, and he will reign over the all." The second logion describes, with striking precision, the inner process of the soul's transformation. Here, Jesus speaks not as an external teacher, but as the voice of the Spirit, the divine principle within that guides each seeker toward their own center. Each verb, to seek, to find, to be disturbed, to marvel, to reign, represents a stage of spiritual initiation, the full journey of human consciousness toward illumination. The Logion begins with the command, "Let the one who seeks not cease from seeking until he finds." Seeking is the sacred fire of the soul, the divine impulse that awakens the human being from the sleep of spiritual inertia. To seek is to remember something forgotten. It is the spark of the spirit searching for itself. But this search is not external. It is an inward descent, a journey into the very core of one's being. Thus, Jesus warns, do not cease from seeking. Perseverance is the seal of a mature soul. Those who seek only out of curiosity stop at the first shadow. Those who seek with the heart find their way even through silence. Then comes the next stage. When he finds, he will be disturbed. This is the shock of truth. To find reality is to confront everything that was hidden: illusions, attachments, beliefs, and shadows. The ego, accustomed to its comfortable order, trembles when the light touches the unconscious. In Jungian terms, this is the encounter with the shadow, the repressed and denied parts of the psyche emerging into awareness. Disturbance is necessary. It marks the beginning of alchemy. In Hermetic language, this is the phase of salve, the dissolution of the old self, when the soul is placed in the purifying fire so that what is false may burn away. But the text continues, and when he is disturbed, he will marvel. After the dark night comes the dawn. When the soul endures the confusion and passes through the chaos, it awakens to the vision of unity. Wonder is the first sign of illumination. The realization that beneath pain there was wisdom, and beneath the shadow, light. In alchemical symbolism, this is the coagula, the reconstitution of spiritual substance in a higher, purer form. The seeker ceases to fear the unknown and begins to revere the sacred that permeates all things. Disturbance transforms into awe because what once seemed disorder now reveals itself as part of a larger harmony. Finally, the verse concludes, "And he will reign over the all." To reign does not mean to rule the external world, but to govern one's inner universe. It is the state of integrated consciousness, centered, free, and whole. In Jungian psychology, this is the realization of the self, the totality of the psyche, where the ego aligns with the will of the spirit. In Hermetic philosophy, this is the birth of the philosophical king, the soul that has united the opposites, light and shadow, heaven and earth, within itself. It is the triumph of the spirit over fragmentation, the establishment of inner sovereignty. Thus, Logion 2 reveals the 5 stages of the great work of the soul. To seek, the ignition of the sacred fire, the longing for truth; to find, the confrontation with reality and the breaking of illusion; to be disturbed, the encounter with the shadow and the death of the old self; to marvel, the awakening to unity and the rebirth in light; and to reign, the mastery of the inner world and union with the all. This is the complete cycle of spiritual alchemy, from desire to wisdom, from chaos to harmony, from fragmented ego to divine consciousness. The one who perseveres through all stages discovers that the all he sought was never outside. It was within all along. And in that recognition, the seeker no longer seeks, for he understands. The one who truly finds becomes what he was seeking.
Logion 3, Gospel of Thomas.
Jesus said, "If those who lead you say to you, 'See, the kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, 'It is in the sea,' then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the sons of the living Father. But if you do not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and you are that poverty." The third logion is one of the most profound revelations in the Gospel of Thomas. Here, Jesus unveils the mystery of the kingdom, not as a distant realm or a promise for the future, but as a present reality that manifests both within and around the human being. It is a teaching about consciousness, not geography, about awakening, not belief. Jesus begins by overturning external notions of salvation. If they say to you, "The kingdom is in the sky," the birds of the sky will precede you. If they say to you, "It is in the sea," then the fish will precede you. Rather, the kingdom is within you, and it is outside you. This paradox expresses the unity of inner and outer worlds. Within, it is the awakened consciousness, the spark of the divine self. Outside, it is the reflection of that consciousness in the living cosmos. The microcosm and macrocosm mirror one another. What you see in the world is a projection of your own inner state. To know the kingdom, one must reconcile these two realms, realizing that there is no boundary between spirit and nature, between self and universe. In Jungian psychology, this verse describes the integration between the ego and the self, the divine center of the psyche. The kingdom within refers to the depths of the unconscious, where the self resides as the totality of being. The kingdom outside refers to the world of projections, the symbols and experiences through which the unconscious reveals itself. To awaken is to recognize that inner and outer reality are expressions of one continuous field of meaning. As Jung wrote, "He who looks outside dreams. He who looks inside awakens." The next line deepens the mystery. "When you come to know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will realize that you are the sons of the living Father." To know yourself is not merely self-reflection, it is gnosis, the direct recognition of one's divine essence. In that moment, the seeker discovers that life itself is aware of him. He is known by the living Father, the eternal consciousness that permeates all existence. The duality between subject and object dissolves. The knower and the known are one. This is the state of spiritual realization where the human recognizes his divine origin, not as metaphor, but as ontological truth. From a Hermetic perspective, this is the culmination of the great work, the fusion of the soul with the divine fire, the discovery of the philosopher's stone within. The living Father represents the eternal source, the creative principle that animates the cosmos. To know oneself as his child is to share in that creative power, to become a conscious participant in the unfolding of reality. But the logion closes with a warning. If you do not know yourselves, you dwell in poverty, and you are that poverty. This poverty is not material lack, but spiritual ignorance, the condition of being cut off from one's source. The person who does not know himself identifies only with the ego, the transient mask of personality.
He becomes that poverty because he lives from the illusion of separation, seeking outside what can only be found within. To live in this ignorance is to inhabit exile, wandering far from the kingdom that has never ceased to be present. Thus, Logion 3 teaches that the kingdom of God is a state of consciousness, the realization of unity between inner and outer, human and divine, visible and invisible. The path to this realization is self-knowledge, for to know oneself is to know the source. And when one truly knows, he discovers that heaven is not elsewhere. The kingdom has always been here, shining through everything that is.